You good? Oh, okay. Large crowd coming in, so we're going to give them a minute. Good? Okay.
Thanks for showing up, everybody.
Good? All right. Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on our first long-range capital planning workshop. My name is Cody Haddad, Town Administrator, and with me is Gary Carrero, our Director of Budget and Finance. So tonight we will focus on our community services projects, but before we dig into that too much, I just want to give you a brief overview on what long-range capital planning is. Selectman Tattlebaum gave a great overview at our town meeting. That's available on our website as a video clip. But really what we're doing is we're trying to look forward, plan for large-scale projects in the future, for better financial management for the town, and to better prepare and make sure that the town is aware of these things as they come up. The benefits to that being obviously that we're prepared. We can save money if we do this right and plan better. We have our long-range stabilization fund, which you'll see at this upcoming fall town meeting for us to replenish that, and also obviously improve services to the community. So tonight we're going to go through three main projects. They are the Recreation Center, the Council on Aging, and Memorial Stadium renovations. And so each one of those is at different phases in the process. Some of them are conceptual, design, and then others we have full design for. So I'm going to get started with our Recreation Center. So in 2019, the town conducted a feasibility study to review the needs for a recreation in the community. Our Parks and Recreation Board for years had been advising that there was really no indoor space for recreation in town besides the schools, and the schools really were utilizing those facilities, and our recreation groups were not able to. So we started on that process. It took a little bit longer because in the middle of that, COVID started to spike. But what we got was a significant amount of feedback, over 800 responses, which you see Dartmouth, a community of over 30,000, you think 800 maybe isn't that great. But when we compare that to some of our other data that we've gotten and other surveys that we've given, 800 is actually a pretty good figure. So I started with this because this actually kind of leads into the Council on Aging project as well. So when we first started the feasibility study, we looked at, could this be a community center? Do we want to include the Council on Aging, recognizing that there was a need for improved facilities at the Council on Aging as well? What we found through that survey in that process was no, we wanted to keep the two facilities separate, and so we moved forward with some conceptual planning of just the Recreation Center. What we found during the feasibility study was they looked at several locations in town, but the area of 225 Russell's Mills Road was named the ideal site, and that is because that's the area we have several recreation fields. It's right next to the former police station, so the town already owns some property there. And however, like I said, this is just conceptual, so this location has not been selected. However, during the feasibility study, it was decided that that would be the most optimal location for the project. What you had was, really what we're looking for is a basic facility, 3 basically basketball courts, a couple of programming rooms, and bathrooms. So that's what you see here as option 6. Option 7 is that exact same design, but with a walking track above, because that's a lot of the feedback that we got during the surveys. And then there's some optional add-ons, team rooms, group staging areas, and for tournament days and things such as that. So obviously the cost is what everybody is concerned about. I think there's a lot of support for this generally, but is it something that the town can afford? So this, based on early 2021, 2022, We were looking at approximately $12 million for this facility. And again, there were additional features. If we added a track, we would then have to add an elevator, right? Because now it's 2 stories. That adds significant cost in some of those other add-ons. And so if you were to go with that kind of the second option there, you're looking at around $15 million. Before I get into the COA, I want to mention that the town did appropriate ARPA funds for the design and project management of the recreation center. Those funds were redistributed to DPW projects because we just weren't in a position to take on that project at the time. And rather than lose those funds, a financial decision was made by the town to reallocate those to other DPW projects. So at this point, that's one of those projects I mentioned is really in the conceptual design phase. Next is the Council on Aging. So Gary, do you want to give a brief overview on the Council on Aging project?
Sure.
Why don't you come up to the mic, Gary?
Thanks, Cody. So back in '24, the town of Dartmouth partnered with Brewster Thornton for a design for the master plan, through the master plan report for the COA. Also, the report also incorporated elderly community. As we look at the aging population in Dartmouth, we don't include everyone typically 65 and over, and we're now talking about, a younger population that benefits from the COA. Also, a 3-phase plan that was implemented implemented over time, and phase 1 is currently underway. So the COA master plan, phase 1, as mentioned, was kitchen and the multipurpose room, which is located here on site. Would add commercial-grade kitchen to the current location, adjust the kitchen layout and to improve ADA accessibility. As mentioned, the kitchen has some age now to it that needs to be updated. And to refresh the main halls, finishes to maintain vibrant, welcoming atmosphere for those that are attending here at COA on a daily basis. Also, phase 2, which is coming up in the near future, is a courtyard cafe and core improvements within the building. It's to enclose the unused courtyard to create a central cafe and lounge that connects key spaces and encourages casual interactions with the residents. To relocate the food pantry to open in the lobby area, and to reconfigure the administrative wing to improve flow and efficiency. In phase 3, it's a long-term approach. In addition to the site improvements here at the COA, to plan a building addition to meet future needs and connect with cafe and outdoor space, and identified as a top priority. Also, to improve site layout and enhance the parking availability and ADA access that I just spoke on, and enhance flow between the entrance, outdoor areas, and service road to connect all other 2 phases together. As mentioned, the growing need for Council on Aging, if you look throughout this region, the population has increased as far as people utilizing COAs within the South Coast. We look at the age group from 45 to 54, and we go back to a census that was dated 2010. You'll see that 54-46 was the count, 2020 44-86. So you see the percent changes there, 75 and older. I know that I've been to a couple of functions here at the COA, and on any given day, the place is almost like Grand Central Station. There are a lot of people that benefit from this facility. Brewster Thornton, again, did the research, and while there's already significant need for the Council on Aging services on today's, it's projected the growth elderly population to 2030 will increase that demand even further. Just to overview, the study provided early cost estimates, as mentioned, based on the initial design concepts. These figures will be refined and design develops and more details are finalized for the project. Phase 2, the courtyard, estimated total cost for that was $1.14 million. It includes construction costs of $911,000 and soft costs, design, permit fees, et cetera, of $222,000 roughly. Phase 3, the addition and site improvements, estimated cost, the cost approximately $2.32 million, and that includes construction costs of $2.1 million and soft costs of $222,000 roughly. Memorial Stadium. Go ahead.
Very good. Thanks, Gary. The last project that we'll dive into as part of this workshop meeting is Memorial Stadium. So this has been in process since 2013, when it started with the Town Fields Committee. And so the study was completed in 2018. You can see it was really broken down into a couple different phases here, the first being the turf field, and then some renovations and additions to the facilities around the field. Timeline, just to give some history here, in spring of 2018, town meeting approved $400,000 for design and initial repairs, and then in that fall, an additional $1.1 million was appropriated. That allowed us to move forward with the artificial turf of the actual field. In 2019, an additional $3.6 million for further improvements was appropriated, and the turf field was completed in time for the sports season. Obviously, again, I mentioned this earlier, but 2020, 2021, the COVID-19 pandemic hit and drew out the remainder of the project. And as we went back out to bid to look for this project, what initially was going to cost around $3.6 million came in at over $6 million. So it did not allow us to move forward with the full renovation, but we were able to just complete the storage building in the back of the stadium. So again, where things stand today, phase one, which was the turf field, was completed, and that, if you look in the top left corner, that maintenance equipment storage building was just recently completed. So the bleachers, renovations to the locker rooms, kitchens, ADA accessibility, those are all items that are outstanding as part of this project. So we've spent almost $3.9 million on this project. We have approximately $1.2 million still available, but as I mentioned, in 2022, this was going to be a $6.3 million project, and as you all know how inflation has been, that's likely a lot higher at this point, but that's the most recent figure that we do have. So before I open it up to questions, just want to plug our next two meetings. Like I said, this was the first of our 3 workshops. The next one will be on the Dartmouth Public Schools, and that'll be at Dartmouth Middle School on September 17th at 6 p.m. And then our last one, which has changed, will be on September 30th at the Southworth Library, and that'll encompass public work projects. So I think you'll find that the schools and the public works have many more projects in the pipeline, and also a lot higher value projects. But I think it's important to get started out and make sure the community is aware. We really view this as an ongoing process as well. So these things will continue to change and be updated. And our goal is to make sure that we're keeping our residents informed of these things and providing additional information as they come, prioritizing the information that we get. We also did a survey based on these projects to identify what the town viewed our biggest needs were. And we'll use all of this information to prioritize different projects going forward. And then just a few thanks to the Friends of the Elderly, the Council on Aging for obviously having us here tonight, the school committee, the Recreation Center Building Committee, and Parks and Rec. But with that, I think the best part of this is really opening it up for questions, and so we'll do that at this point. So does anyone have any questions?
On the activity center, is that has it been looked at to reach out to other organizations within the community that do provide room for activities? I know you mentioned schools that wouldn't be a starter, but I lived in another community for a while, and we had every Thursday night or whatever, it was a badminton night at the middle school. And we had people there who were, badminton pros. It was crazy. But it just seems, $11 million for a couple of basketball courts and stuff like that. Why couldn't the schools kind of make some kind of arrangement to use them, at least until you get something like this, or maybe you find out that it's actually not worth it to build the activity center and use schools. We have the schools. We have the other thing you could sort of give some money to other places that do this. It's a pong thing, paddleball down the road.
Pickleball,
right? Yeah, pickleball. You know, so, you know, you give townspeople, you know, vouchers or something to go into a place that is already existing, and that could probably be a lot cheaper than building stuff. We have a state university here in Dartmouth. I'm not sure exactly what, I'm sure they have a lot of basketball and stuff like that. I don't know if they have a swimming pool or not, but that could be useful. We also have the YMCA, and again, you could use vouchers or something like that to have people be able to use the YMCA, help with the costs, and that would help the YMCA also to perhaps expand their stuff. So, you know,
Yeah, so I'm
rather than-
more than happy to answer all of those points. You bring up very valid points. I will say the schools support the town's recreation programs to the extent possible, you know, within balance of running their own programs. But the reality is we're a large community, and we have a lot of programming going on. So we need more space than just what the schools are able to provide. We're in constant communication and collaboration with organizations such as UMass Dartmouth to see if there's opportunities. But again, what we run into is they're already having their own programming. And we, you know, they come first. They're going to prioritize their own programming. And so we run into this issue where we still don't have space. And a lot of our youth programs, our recreation director is here, and our former recreation director is here as well. And you know what they can tell you is a lot of times our youth sports and programming are having to go outside of town, far outside of town, to utilize space. And you know, for our community, we should be, you know, look to provide that space. So those are great points that you have, and we certainly are always looking at those opportunities. But what we found is the need still does exist within the town, even if we do provide some of those opportunities for space.
Hi, my name is Melissa Haskell. These numbers sound large and in aggregate, and I'm wondering what they break down to approximately on a household basis or on a per thousand assessed value basis. Can you give us some context for that? Because I think it sounds scary in its current form, but may not be as scary if we had an understanding of what it would cost per person or per household. Thank you.
So we we looked at all the options and what these projects. I mean, we're not talking about $100,000 projects. We're talking about millions of dollars. If we look at a school, it could cost $100 million, if not more, with contribution from the MSBA to a certain point. But we're very cognizant of what that means ultimately to the residents. They're the ones that have to, you know, pay for this. And these sessions that we're having are more higher level. With follow-up sessions to this, we will be getting into what those costs are for the individuals. If in fact we were to put on a $100 million school, or if we were to build a $60 million water treatment plant, what that means for the rate users, what that means for the folks that are not paying into the system. So we are very cognizant of what this will cost. We ran some preliminary numbers, but what we want to do is have this a high-level conversation, and then when we have additional follow-up meetings with the public, then come out and say, this is what a school will cost you. Because ultimately, that's what the residents want to know. You're correct.
Cody, Chris O'Neill, can you give us an idea, an update on the COA projects?
Yeah.
The kitchen, where we are on the kitchen. There was a little bit of confusion on the time frame initially, and
Absolutely.
I'd like to know where we are now.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have Maria Connor here, representing the Friends of the Elderly tonight. And so the Friends have been great supporters of the COA, and particularly with the kitchen project. The kitchen itself has been ongoing for quite some time. The town initially commissioned an architecture firm to conduct the design in 2021, I believe it was. At that point, the town decided to pivot and do this full master plan, which Gary went over. So with that master plan, it recommended three phases, which we're in phase one. So where we are right now is we have done the procurement for the design, the full design of the phase one, which is the kitchen, and then partially the remote here, with our priority being the kitchen, getting that done. We should be executing that contract with the designer any day now. We've held a couple meetings with them, and we're just kind of working on some logistics back and forth. You will likely, if CIPC votes to recommend it, that we have submitted a request for $400,000 for the kitchen to get that completed. The idea is we want to move that process along. The Friends have also vowed to contribute another $100,000. And so our priority is getting the kitchen done. The idea would be we have the design complete in early winter, and as long as we have all the funding, which if town meeting approves it in the fall, we'll be able to go right into the construction phase of the project. And ideally, at this time next year, the kitchen phase one project would be complete here at the COA.
Just like Dave Tattlebaum, just like to mention a couple of things regarding first off, the rec center. A lot has happened since this design came along, and a lot more options come along. I'm not sure we can, there's collaborations around possibly UMass Dartmouth, possibly with the schools as we look forward to building schools. There's a lot of choices, but the need is still there. So we voted to include this in this presentation because it's there, it's support for it, and it's a great need. How we ultimately will end up doing it, our goal is to present these options and then have our town meeting and voters accept it either way we go. So, but the need is there, and that's clearly what the need is. But Melissa, your question regarding cost, you don't care whether it's part of your real estate tax or part of your user fee or it's part of a debt exclusion. It's all coming out of your same pocket. Our goal is when we present these projects, because we have done it before, to tell you what it's going to cost on an average basis for each project. Down the road, when we work with the DPW, that's a user fee for a sewer treatment plant, and we'll be able to tell you the cost as we go forward for users, et cetera. But also minus out grants, whatever we can. There's a lot of work to be done. And this long-range planning is something you can just do. We're doing it because we have time to do it and do it right. But we understand totally that you have the right to know what's it going to cost, where's it going to come from. And you don't really care which direction. It comes from your own pocket. So that's our goal. And that's the beauty of doing long-range planning this way, because we can make choices and then come up with a democratic process to decide which is the best way to go.
Are there any other questions? Terry, did you have something? Okay. Oh. Okay, very good. Well, we thank everybody for attending tonight, our first workshop meeting. And like I said, our next one will be September 17th at Dartmouth Middle School regarding our public schools projects at 6 p.m. And then our last workshop meeting will be on September 30th at the Southworth Library. As Gary mentioned and Dave mentioned as well, this is really our first series of these workshops. The point of this is a high-level overview to get more feedback from the community, make sure our community is aware of these projects, and this is an ongoing initiative that we are undertaking. And as we hone in on these projects, we'll have additional information such as the financial burden to the taxpayers in town. So we thank you all for coming out, and have a good night. Thank you.